Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call Jami-Lee Ross.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill is good and this agreement is good for New Zealand because the future of New Zealand and its economy is in exporting more goods and being an open country, forward-facing, looking towards other parts of the world where we can contribute and sell our goods. And Mr. Speaker, the Asian markets and the Asian countries are a big part of where New Zealand's future opportunities lie. New Zealand's participation in this agreement with this bank is also important because having good infrastructure in Asian countries where they can grow and where they can develop and demand more of our goods is going to be good for New Zealand as well. And many of the speeches in this House already have covered those points. And Mr. Speaker, I don't want to dwell on them. But I do want to point out, Mr. Speaker, some of the aspects in the Foreign Affairs, Defence and Trade Select Committee's report on the international treaty examination. There's some good stuff in that report. It talks about the fact that we, the committee, consider that New Zealand's early involvement in the bank provided a good opportunity to influence its direction. It talks about the fact that being a founding member of the bank also makes sense for geostrategic, political and economic reasons. The report goes on to say that New Zealand's economic future is linked to the Asian region and Asia's growth is increasingly constrained by limited infrastructure and investment capital. Mr. Speaker, these are very good points. And I do want to point out to the House, Mr. Speaker, that when this committee considered this treaty, it was considered by a committee which included one Fletcher Tabuto. Mr. Speaker, the committee included the New Zealand First Party. Mr. Speaker, in this report, there is not a single word of opposition to this treaty. At the committee meeting, the New Zealand First Party and the New Zealand First member didn't have a whisper, didn't have a murmur, didn't have a squeak of opposition to this bank. But they come into this House, they beat their chests day after day on issues that in select committee they sit there quietly like little lambs supporting very much of what the government is doing. And Mr. Speaker, if Mr. Tabuto wants to be honest with the New Zealand public, he said we should go and be honest with...
Order, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order, Fletcher Tabuto.
I seek your guidance here, sir. Mr. Ross is completely misrepresenting the facts. I did speak out against this.
No, that is not a point of order. It is a question. It is a matter for debate. Jami-Lee Ross.
Mr. Speaker, the report speaks for itself. There's no minority report. There's no points about, some members disagree with X, Y, Z in the report, Mr. Speaker. They are little lambs in select committees. They don't oppose what the government is doing in select committee, but they come in here and beat their chests. Mr. Speaker, this is good for the country. This is good for New Zealand's future growth and economic opportunity. That is why we are supporting it. And Mr. Speaker, I suggest New Zealand First would be better off continuing with the position they take in select committees when they come into this House and contribute to debate.
Yeah, lazy New Zealand First.
I call Green Party 5-minute